I'm focused. There's stability in my life now. There's no second guessing. Well, is another album going to come out? And if it comes out, is it going to be successful? I don't care.
Long before Nicki Minaj, Lil Kim, Trina, Foxy Brown, and Megan Thee Stallion, there was Adina Howard, the fearless voice who broke barriers with her raw honesty and bold sexuality. With just one song, Freak Like Me, she changed the sound of R&B and gave women permission to own their desires in a way no one had dared before. But just when it seemed like Adina was about to take over the industry, she vanished. Was it because of industry politics? A messy love triangle with Brandy and Wanya Morris from Boys II Men? Or was her career deliberately sabotaged after powerful executives turned against her? Her videos were banned, her second album shelved, and everything she had worked for slipped away. Today, her legacy is often forgotten, but her influence is everywhere. So what really happened to Adina Howard's career? And why did one of R&B's boldest voices disappear from the spotlight so quickly? Let's find out. Adina Howard, A Journey in Music and Life. Adina Howard was born on November 14, 1973, in Grand Rapids, Michigan. She grew up in a household led by her mother, alongside three younger sisters. From an early age, her mother recognized her talent and made sure Adina's voice would be heard, insisting she join the church choir and even pushing her to sing solos. Music was never far from her life, even as the family later relocated to Phoenix, Arizona. As a child, Adina was drawn to powerful performers who embodied confidence and individuality. One of her biggest idols was Madonna, another Michigan native who had carved her own path in the music industry. Inspired, Adina dreamed of one day following in those footsteps and worked tirelessly to turn that dream into reality. Her determination paid off in the mid-1990s when she caught the attention of producer Livio Harris. Recognizing her raw talent, Harris helped her record songs and soon introduced her to Max Goose. Together, they guided Adina toward her first major opportunity, a recording deal with Mecca Don/East West Records. For the young singer, it was the breakthrough she had been working toward. I ended up in Los Angeles taking pictures, working on the demo. Everything just really took off from there, she would later recall. It was during this time that she recorded what would become her signature hit, Freak Like Me. At the time, Adina admitted she had no sense of the impact the track would have. "I just get into the studio, record the song. The rest is going to be what it is," she said. Yet the song went on to define her career, turning her into a household name almost overnight. In 1996, Adina's star continued to rise. She teamed up with rapper Warren G for What's Love Got to Do With It, a track featured in the Jackie Chan film Police Story 3: Super Cop. The song, which sampled Tina Turner's iconic hit, became a success, climbing to number 36 on the Billboard Hot 100 in the US and soaring to number 2 in the UK. Its music video even featured Jackie Chan himself, adding to the song's global appeal. That same year, she expanded her repertoire with more soundtrack contributions. She recorded Damned If I Do With Something for the People for the film, A Thin Line Between Love and Hate, and added another track to the Sunset Park soundtrack, Adina Howard's love triangle that ended her career. Adina Howard's breakout single Freak Like Me transformed her into a household name. The track, unapologetically celebrating female desire, was unlike anything else at the time. It was bold, raw, and liberating, and it made Adina one of the most talked-about new voices in R&B. She seemed destined to become the next big star, confident, unafraid, and perfectly positioned in an era when women like Lil Kim and Foxy Brown were breaking barriers of their own. For a moment, it looked like Adina was leading a cultural shift, giving women permission to speak openly about sexuality in a way few dared. But behind the spotlight, her career was about to take a devastating turn. The trouble began with a love triangle that pulled her into the orbit of Wanya Morris from Boys II Men and Brandy, one of the era's brightest stars. Brandy had cultivated a polished, good girl image, while Adina was branded as wild, outspoken, and provocative. The stark contrast between the two only fueled the drama. Adina began dating Wanya, despite the fact that he was already involved with Brandy. Looking back, she admitted it was a volatile mix. Two young ladies allowed their egos to get in the way and were kind of going through it about a guy, she said years later. At first, she didn't see the relationship as a threat to her rising career. She was young, in love, and riding the high of newfound success. But the situation quickly spiraled when industry heavyweights started paying attention. Sylvia Rhone, the powerful head of East West Records and one of the most influential women in music at the time, caught wind of the affair. To Sylvia, the relationship was nothing but a distraction. She urged Adina to end things with Wanya and focus on her career. But Adina refused to listen. She continued seeing him, and soon the whispers turned into full-blown gossip across the industry. And in the music business, crossing someone as powerful as Sylvia Rhone could be a career-ending mistake. For Adina Howard, it was the beginning of the end. Public feud with Brandy. Adina's troubles deepened when she sat down with radio personality Wendy Williams, who at the time had a reputation for prying into celebrities' private lives and stirring up controversy. During the interview, Wendy pushed Adina to talk openly about her relationship with Wanya Morris. Adina obliged, but she didn't stop there. In a moment of unfiltered honesty, she made critical remarks about Brandy, and most damaging of all, she took aim at Sylvia Rhone, the powerful executive who essentially held her career in her hands. Adina later admitted she hadn't grasped the weight of her words in that moment, but to her younger self, speaking her truth felt natural. Looking back, she summed it up simply. Sylvia pulled the emergency brake and shut everything down. Departure from Atlantic Records. Sylvia Rhone was furious. After hearing the interview, she retaliated by halting the release of Adina's highly anticipated second album. The project that could have solidified her place as an R&B star never saw the light of day. Almost overnight, Adina's momentum disappeared. Her songs were no longer promoted, her videos weren't aired, and radio stations stopped playing her tracks. Insiders described it bluntly. You got two queens in one castle. The one who writes the checks is going to win. For Adina, the realization was sobering. She later admitted that publicly disrespecting Sylvia Rhone was the biggest mistake of her career. Sylvia, she acknowledged, had every right to defend her own authority, even if it meant burying Adina's future in the industry. The fallout was devastating. While Adina continued to make music in the years that followed, she would never again recapture the success and spotlight she enjoyed in the mid-1990s. One moment of speaking too freely had changed everything. Adina Howard's lost album, a missed chance for success. Before her feud and industry fallout derailed her career, Adina Howard had been pouring her energy into what was supposed to be her second album, Welcome to Fantasy Island. Unlike her debut, this project gave her far more creative control, and she surrounded herself with some of the biggest names in music at the time: Missy Elliott, DJ Quick, Timbaland, Genuine, and even Jamie Foxx. The album was slated for release on July 29, 1997. But just as everything was coming together, label politics got in the way. East West Records merged with Elektra Records, which had now fallen under the authority of Sylvia Rhone. Suddenly, Adina's future was at the mercy of the very executive she had clashed with. Still, the rollout began. In May 1997, the first single, Freak and You Know It, hit the airwaves. It reached number 70 on the Billboard Hot 100 and climbed to number 32 on the R&B chart. Critics were impressed. Spin praised it as well-made and great for dancing. AllMusic went even further, calling it stronger than her debut. Vibe compared the track's groove to the timeless feel of an Isley Brothers classic. Momentum was building, but behind the scenes, The album release was quietly pushed back, from July to September of 1997. Then, it was shelved altogether. Fans never got to hear the body of work Adina believed could cement her as a powerhouse in R&B. Only 2 tracks ever saw the light of day: Freak and You Know It and T-Shirt and Panties, the latter featuring Jamie Foxx, which eventually gained cult status years later. For fans, it was a crushing disappointment. Challenges with music leaks. For more than a decade, Welcome to Fantasy Island remained locked away. Then, in 2013, most of the album leaked online through a mixtape site. The leak wasn't complete. Songs like T-Shirt and Panties and Crank Me Up were missing, but it was enough to send fans into a frenzy. Even in its unfinished form, listeners were thrilled to finally hear the project they had been denied. Finally, in January 2021, after more than 20 years of waiting, the story took a turn. Rhino Records acquired the rights to the album and officially released Welcome to Fantasy Island on February 19, 2021, across digital platforms. At last, fans could experience the record the way it was meant to be heard. Adina never stopped believing in the project. She often called it some of her best work, and remained proud of the creativity she had poured into it. Over time, unreleased material trickled out as well. Personal Freak, featuring Busy Bone, appeared on his albums in 2014 and 2016. In 2018, a promo single for Crank Me Up surfaced, originally intended to be a major release back in 1997. The official release of Welcome to Fantasy Island decades later was bittersweet. It gave closure to fans who had always wondered what could have been, and it stood as a reminder of the career Adina Howard might have had if industry politics hadn't silenced her at her peak. The rise and fall in the music industry. The music industry has always had a way of drawing in young talent, and Adina Howard was no exception. At just 21 years old, she burst onto the scene with a style that was bold, sexy, and unapologetic. Her lyrics were daring, her confidence undeniable, and audiences couldn't get enough. "Don't get it twisted," she once declared. "If I don't choose you, you get nothing. You have to be my option. I'm not yours." Her words matched her image, fearless and in control. With hit songs and a rapidly growing fan base, Adina quickly became one of the hottest names in R&B. But just as fast as she rose, she disappeared. One moment she was everywhere, and the next, she was gone. Fans were left wondering what had happened. The whispers inside the industry painted a harsh picture. Adina had been blackballed. "I can be myself. I'm sexually liberated," she explained later. "The downside to it is the perception that if you, as a guy, look at me and say, 'Yeah, you a freak, so am I,' that they're the chosen one." Adina never allowed the industry to define her worth. Where others might have begged to stay relevant, she accepted her exile as part of her journey. She believed she still mattered to the people who truly counted: her family, her friends, and her fans. So when the door closed, she walked away with her head high. But the industry has a way of pulling artists back in. Even when Adina tried to move on, opportunities would resurface. Still, things were never the same. The dazzling success she once enjoyed was gone. She continued to work hard, but those in power no longer stood behind her. She honored her commitments, but in return, she received little support. The unfairness wore on her. She grew tired of fighting for a place in a business that no longer seemed to want her. Being blackballed wasn't just an obstacle, it became a turning point. She had seen firsthand how quickly the industry could turn on someone, and she refused to let it crush her spirit. "And I'm so humbled and grateful that people gravitate to that song," she said, reflecting on her breakout success. "It made me a household name and gave me my first taste of major professional stardom, success in the industry. But I'm like, God bless America. Can we move on?" Still, Behind the strong words, there were difficult moments. She clashed with a former manager, dealt with betrayals in the business, and faced a string of challenges that seemed to come all at once. The weight of it all eventually led her to a breaking point. She admitted to having a breakdown during that period, the pressure of losing her career, the conflicts with people around her, and the disappointment of watching her hard work unravel hit her all at once. For a time, she felt lost. But Adina Howard was never one to let a single moment define her. She picked herself up, regained her strength, and kept moving forward. No matter how much the industry tried to silence her, she refused to let it take away her voice or her spirit. Explicit stage performances. At a time when most female singers avoided speaking openly about sex, Adina Howard broke the mold. Her lyrics weren't about what men expected from women. They were about what she herself wanted. That honesty was revolutionary, especially for young women of color who saw in Adina a fearless example that they too could express their sexuality without shame. Her breakout song quickly became one of the best-selling singles of the year. It dominated radio airwaves and appeared constantly on MTV and BET. Whether people loved it or hated it, everyone had an opinion, and everyone was talking about Adina Howard. She never pretended to be anyone else. In interviews, she spoke candidly about her desires and her sexual freedom. For many, her openness was refreshing and even brave. They admired her willingness to challenge long-standing social norms. But not everyone was comfortable. Some critics thought her image and lyrics went too far, and debates erupted over whether she was empowering women or simply stirring controversy. Adina herself summed it up best. "I can be myself. I'm sexually liberated. The downside to it is the perception that if you, as a guy, look at me and say, 'Yeah, you a freak, so am I,' that they're the chosen one." They're controversial music videos. In 2015, her impact was revisited in the documentary Adina Howard 20, A Story of Sexual Liberation. Don't get it twisted. If I don't choose you, you get nothing. You have to be my option. "I'm not yours," Adina said, echoing the same defiance that defined her career. The film explored how she reshaped music and inspired a generation of artists. Featuring interviews with fellow musicians, teachers, feminists, and fans, it offered a balanced look at both the triumphs and struggles she endured. But Adina's outspokenness often came at a cost. One of her music videos was banned from BET for being too explicit, fueling her reputation as an artist who consistently pushed the boundaries of what was considered acceptable. Still, she wasn't confined to just music. She appeared in the hit film Waiting to Exhale, collaborated with stars like Jamie Foxx, and even developed a friendship with Tupac Shakur. Yet the constant battles over her image and career direction weighed heavily on her. As she reflected later, she admitted, "This is just becoming way too much. I need to have control. I need a Plan B shift to culinary arts." By 2010, Adina Howard realized she needed to think about life beyond music. The industry had given her both success and heartbreak, and she wanted a backup plan for her future. So she made a bold move. She enrolled in culinary school to pursue her other passion, cooking. "Every time I fed somebody," she explained, "the consensus was, 'Adina, you need to do this for a living. You need to sell your pizzas. You need to sell your sauces. You need to sell your food.' When I was going into the studio to record music, there wasn't a passion there. It was a job. But my cooking really is, for me, it's more than a job." Around that same time, fate brought someone back into her life. She reconnected with Sherman Jordan, a man she had first met years earlier at Los Angeles International Airport in 1996. They had crossed paths at the terminal multiple times, until one day Sherman handed her his number and told her to call if she ever felt like talking. What began as a casual connection slowly grew into something deeper. Within a year, Adina and Sherman were dating. But there was a challenge. They wanted very different things. Sherman dreamed of settling down, getting married, and starting a family, while Adina had long insisted she never wanted marriage or children. Their opposing views kept their relationship in flux for over a decade. Sometimes they were together, sometimes apart. But even in those years of distance, they always remained best friends. In 2011, Adina surprised even herself by changing her mind. She agreed to marry Sherman, and the two celebrated their union in a beautiful wedding ceremony. Overnight, she stepped into a new role, not just as a wife, but also as a stepmother to Sherman's daughter from a previous relationship. Ironically, the woman who once vowed never to live in Arizona again found herself returning there with Sherman to begin their married life. A year later, in 2012, Adina graduated from culinary school. She started out working as a line cook at a resort, slowly proving herself in a demanding new industry. Her dedication paid off, and before long, she worked her way up to becoming a chef. Even with her growing success in the culinary world, Adina Howard couldn't shake the feeling that something was missing. By her own account, she had achieved balance. "I have a beautiful husband. I have a beautiful 15-year-old daughter. I am at peace. I'm balanced. I'm focused. There's stability in my life now. There's no second guessing. Well, is another album going to come out? And if it comes out, is it going to be successful? I don't care." But music still had a hold on her. After a 2013 performance, she admitted to Vibe magazine that it was her husband, Sherman, who encouraged her to step back into the spotlight. She signed with Monarchy Records, and with Sherman acting as her project coordinator, she released the single Switch. The track was meant to serve as the introduction to a new album, The Switch Up, though the project's release date never materialized. Her personal life was evolving too. Though she had once declared she never wanted children of her own, Adina later changed her mind. In 2014, she revealed to Urban Bridges that she and Sherman were trying to have a baby together. By 2017, she returned with a full album titled Resurrection. Its lead single, Blasphemy, carried a socially conscious message that reflected the woman she had become. Music, for her, was no longer about chasing charts or industry approval. It had become a passion project, a way to tell her story. She even released a documentary to share her journey with fans. "And now that I'm a seasoned woman," she explained, "my music, it's going to focus more on my journey, where I am, how I got here." Yet, behind the music, her personal life was unraveling. Before she and Sherman could have a child of their own, their marriage came to an end. The two divorced in 2017, though their bond remained unusually strong. Sherman appeared in her unsung episode, speaking of her with respect and warmth. Even after their separation, they continued living under the same roof, with Sherman affectionately calling Adina his wingman. Still, challenges persisted. Despite her legacy, Adina admitted in interviews that she wasn't making money from her earlier catalog. On the Titi Torres show, she revealed that she had never received royalty checks from her past albums, the result of unfair contracts she had signed early in her career. The business side of music had never been kind to her. To Ebony, she confessed that she wished she had remained more humble and cautious, and she warned that the industry was full of wolves and snakes. And yet, despite the disappointments, Adina refused to walk away completely. She continued to perform a handful of shows every year, living life and making music on her own terms. Through every high and low, one thing never changed. Adina Howard always played by her own rules. Later part of her career. By late 2017, Adina Howard had found herself back in the spotlight. That November, she released a short film titled Adina Howard, Resurrection Tour Atlanta, which was made available on digital platforms. The project coincided with a wave of recognition for her music. She earned 2 UB Honors Award nominations, Best Artist Return Single for Blasphemy with King Gas, and Best Independent R&B Album Release for Resurrection. Her momentum carried into December when she picked up 2 more nominations at the MCP Music Awards. This time she was recognized for Best Deep Cut of the Year with Radiation, featuring Tekken 90, and Best Comeback of the Year for Blasphemy. The nominations made it clear that, even years after her initial rise, fans and critics alike still valued her artistry. In January 2018, she appeared on the online radio show Thay Council Radio, where she revealed she was co-writing a self-help book with a therapist. The project, tentatively titled Adina Howard, Real Raw, reflected her desire to share her journey beyond music. Around the same time, she also announced a new acting role in the indie film Relaxer, which was set to premiere at the 2018 SXSW Festival. Meanwhile, she continued her musical pursuits, working on a fresh album with producer King Gas under the title Diary of a Desperate Housewife. Her story was revisited again in March 2019, when she was featured on TV One's Unsung, a series that chronicled the lives of once celebrated artists who had faded from mainstream view. The episode highlighted her impact as a trailblazer in R&B, a sentiment echoed in commentary that connected her influence to artists like Lil' Kim, Foxy Brown, and Nicki Minaj. That same month, Relaxer opened in theaters, earning strong reviews and securing a 72% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. By May, Adina was back with new music, announcing her single Freak, created in collaboration with the group Mother's Favorite Child. She had also joined them for an acoustic performance of her classics on TV One. The following month, she appeared in the documentary A Fatherless America, directed by Tommy Sotomayor, which explored the struggles faced by children growing up without fathers. In July 2019, she performed alongside Montel Jordan at a Detroit concert while promoting another track, Lifeline. Around this period, she also hinted at broader ambitions, sharing in an interview with Consciousness magazine that she was working on a book and considering a career in motivational speaking. The start of 2020 brought more music. On January 17th, she released the dance single Mind Reader, a collaboration with Apollo. The track quickly took off, climbing to #1 on the TrackSource charts and #2 on the Dutch Freak 31 chart. In 2020, Adina Howard marked a major milestone in her career. In an interview with R&B Junkie, she celebrated the 25th anniversary of her debut album and revealed plans to begin a residency in Houston, Texas. She also signed on to appear in a stage play titled Miss D's Kitchen, produced by Katrina Walker. The play was scheduled to premiere in April, but like many projects that year, it was postponed due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Despite the setback, her music continued to be recognized. That December, she earned another UB Honors nomination, this time for Best Dance Club Single of the Year for her track Mind Reader. Then, in January 2021, came news her fans had been waiting decades to hear. Her long-shelved second album, Welcome to Fantasy Island, would finally be released in the U.S. through Rhino Records on February 19th. The long-awaited project gave her supporters a chance to hear the album in its entirety, more than 20 years after it had been locked away. Adina kept the momentum going. On April 23, 2022, she released a new single, Keep Looking, followed by a remix featuring rapper Trina that July. Later that year, she shifted back into acting, joining the cast of False Prophets, a film directed by James Hampton. She expressed her excitement about returning to the screen and exploring yet another creative outlet. In July 2023, she expanded her brand even further with the launch of her first wine, Indelible, created in partnership with Ramona Ranch Winery. That same summer, she teased fans with another new song, Liquor, reminding the world that music was still at the center of who she was. Through it all, Adina Howard never stopped evolving. From acting and writing to motivational speaking and music, she continued to push herself into new creative territories. Her journey was full of setbacks and comebacks, but she remained true to herself. Her story proved that talent and determination could carry an artist through any storm, no matter how long the odds. Adina Howard's journey is one of bold beginnings, painful setbacks, and an unshakable determination to keep moving forward. From breaking barriers with her unapologetic lyrics to facing the weight of industry politics and personal struggles, her legacy remains both inspiring and tragic. She proved that even when the spotlight fades, the strength to stay true to yourself is what truly defines an artist. Do you think Adina Howard deserved a bigger place in R&B history? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more content from us. Until next time.